Redhead Rabbit Christmas Story by Bill Latrell. Oh, no. Here.
Early Monday morning, Mrs. Rose stood in front of her second grade class and reached into the hat that was sitting on her desk. She pulled out a piece of paper and held it high. She said,
"In my hand is the name of the lucky second grader. This child will get to make up a story and tell it to the Christmas assembly on Friday. Choose me."
bellowed Big Eddie, the boy whose dad owned the toy store.
"Choose me," commented Cool Katie, who was the girl in the class. "Choose me," mumbled Munchie Max, the skinny kid who was always cheese.
"Boggle free cheese," replied Red-Headed Robbie.
Mrs. Wallace frowned. Robbie could feel his face turning red, and he dropped his head to his desk. He had done it again. Robbie meant to say,
"Don't choose me,"
but instead,
"Boggle free cheese"
came out.
Red-Headed Robbie spoke perfectly fine when talking to his parents or friends, but whenever Robbie felt nervous or excited or upset, the first words that jumped from his lips usually made no sense. Robbie's boggle voice was funny, but classmates never laughed. They asked Robbie to share his lunch treat. He didn't hug the swings. In fact, when Robbie misspoke, the kids usually covered up for him. Big Eddie said,
Redhead Robbie didn't mean that, Miss Wallace. He's just nervous. Mrs. Wallace read from the snippet.
"And the winner is Robbie!"
Oh no, said Big Eddie.
"It can't be so," said Cool Katie.
Bad show,
said Munchkin Max.
"Popper froze," said Red-Headed Robbie.
That night, Robbie felt sick to his stomach. How could he make up a story and tell it to the Christmas assembly without saying something silly? Robbie wrote a fairy tale about a snowflake that landed on a fruitcake and thought it was a raisin. The story was lame, and Robbie knew it.
The next day after school, Robbie visited Big Eddie at his father's toy store. Robbie found him sitting in his father's desk chair.
"How's the story going, Red-Headed Robbie?"
"I need help,"
said Red-Headed Robbie.
Eddie said,
"Make up a story about a boy who gets so many presents it takes him 2 days to open them all."
"But Christmas isn't about getting presents. It's a time we give gifts to people who have less than us."
Eddie stopped in mid-chair. "I never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help with your story."
The next day after school, Robbie visited Cool Katie at her house. He found her at her desk talking on the phone.
"How's the story going, Red-Headed Robbie?"
"I need help."
"Make up a story about a cool girl who throws a cool Christmas party."
Oh. But Christmas isn't a time for being cool. It's a time for being nice to someone new, maybe someone who's shy.
Katie put down the phone.
"I never thought of Christmas that way. Sorry you didn't help."
The next day after school, Robbie visited Munchkin Max. He found Max in his bedroom staring at a box of open candy.
"How's the story going, Red-Headed Robbie?"
"I need help."
Make up a story about a kid who is mad at his little sister for breaking his candy cane.
Christmas isn't a time for payback, it's a time for forgiving.
Max, put down the smoking thing.
I never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help. The next morning, the students and parents gathered in the auditorium for the Christmas assembly.
The fifth grade performed a Christmas play. They had written only a few times did their wigs fall off their heads.
He said, Robbie, a fourth grade played a Christmas song he had composed on the guitar. Only a few times he dropped it.
A third grader danced a Christmas dance. She had choreographed only a few times did she tumble to the floor. When the time came for the second grader's performance, Miss Wallace said,
Robbie will now tell us his Christmas story. Robbie stood before the assembly. In his hand was a story he had written about the snowflake that thought it was a raisin. His stomach felt like hot candle wax.
Robbie took a deep breath and started to tell the tale.
Robbie ate his raisin. He said, Robbie's face flushed, burning red. A couple of first graders giggled. Robbie tried again to talk. Gloopy, glappy, glue.
He said. A couple of fifth graders whispered to each other. Again, Robbie tried to speak.
Benny.
Blacket. He said. A couple of fourth graders pointed at Black.
His story was a disaster. Robbie felt ready to burst into tears, and he put his hands over his eyes.
Suddenly, Big Eddie left his seat and walked to the stage. He stood next to Robbie with his arm around him. Red-headed Robbie knows a Christmas story. It's about a boy who thought that Christmas meant one thing, getting presents. Then a little angel with red hair visited that boy. The angel told him that Christmas is a time for giving to people who don't have much. After the angel left, the boy asked his parents to give some of his presents to the kids at the homeless shelter. That's Red-Headed Robbie's Christmas story.
Cool Katie left her seat. She stood next to Robbie and held his hand.
Red-Headed Robbie is a Christmas story about a girl who thought all about being cool. Then a little angel with red hair visited that girl. The angel told her that Christmas is the time for being nice to someone new, maybe someone who is shy. After the angel left, the girl visited the shy girl. They played together. That's Red-Headed Robbie's Christmas story.
Muncie Max got up from his seat. He stood next to Robbie and slid a bag of peanuts into Robbie's pocket.
Red-Headed Robbie knows a Christmas story. It's about a kid who wanted to hide his little sister's Christmas presents as payback for breaking his candy cane. Then a little angel with red hair visited that kid. The angel told him that Christmas is a time to forgive, not to pay back. After the angel left, the kid forgave his little sister and took her sledding.
That's Redhead and Robbie's Christmas story.
So, assembly stood in class. They did not stop until Mrs. Wallace stood next to Robbie and asked for quiet. She wiped away a tear and said,
Thank you, Robbie, for your wonderful Christmas story. Let each person here follow Robbie's advice. Give before you take. Show kindness to someone new. Forgive a person who has hurt you.
Mrs. Wallace looked at Robbie.
Did I forget something? Furry foot mask duo.
The